afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Financial Happy Hour, Rusty Westfall, downtown Belleville, Illinois style. Hope everybody is having just as good, if not a better Friday than I am. And chatting with Mr. Nicholas, not Cage, but Mr. Early before we went live here. Nick, too, is having an exceptionally good day today. Isn't that right, Nick?
I am.
That's
It's
what
been a
I'm
great
talking
day.
about. That's what I'm talking about. All right. Well, today our special guest is the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Nick Early. And Nick, what city in nowhere, Oklahoma, are you in again?
I'm in Yukon, so I'm about 15 minutes west of downtown Oklahoma City.
Oh, really?
Yep. Right dab
Have
in the middle.
Have you always been there? I thought you were like closer to nothing.
Nope. I've always been here. So I grew up in Yukon. I got fond memories of hiding from tornadoes in the closet when I was under 10. And then we moved to Northwest OKC. And I spent, about 10 years there. And then I moved back out to Yukon as a young adult, and I've been out here ever since. So
Nice. So you're just a jump hop skipping away from city life then.
yeah, pretty much. I'm a little bit on the outskirts now. Like it takes me about 5 minutes to get to a Walmart. So I'm like, I got the country feel with the amenities of the city. I'm like, I think the metro here is like maybe 30 or 40,000 people.
Well, so when my wife and I, had our house built, it was basically right behind a Walmart. And we've always been close to a Walmart, usually within 5-10 minutes. And we're like, man, we can walk there. This is going to be awesome. Let me tell you something. Convenience comes with a price.
It usually does, yeah.
We, we I mean, we know everybody there by name. I mean, matter of fact, I think I'm on their payroll. I mean, I'm known to grab the carts and take them up to the store and do all these sort of because we're there like 2 to 3 times a day. And it's never a 10 or $15. It's usually 50 here, 200 here, 5,000 here, pull a mortgage out, second lien on your home, something like that. There was a post I made a couple of years ago. Real, I mean, this is a true story I could ever. I went there for two things, and I can't remember the other one, but one was dental floss. I went there for dental floss and something completely different. And I walked out over $150 later in like 3 or 4 bags. It's almost like a scene out of Dumb and Dumber, where Lloyd goes inside. He's like, "Now don't spend all the money." He's like, "No, don't worry about it." And he comes out with this big box. And he got the hat on, and he's doing that sort of thing. Yeah. So, anyways, I don't know how I went off that far off the
I'm the
trail here,
I'm
but
the type to go in looking for two things and come out with neither of them, but a bunch of other stuff, and then have to go back
yeah, that sounds about par
or
for the
take a
course.
scolding the rest of the day.
Yeah, I mean, you get home and you're like, shit, I didn't even get I didn't get what I went there for in the first place. And you got to go back and spend $200 again because it's like a $200 admission fee just to walk inside the door. Well, nevertheless, let's go ahead and do our financial happy hour salute here. So, if you guys caught the live about 20 minutes ago, went to Mr. Benny's Pizzeria, just a couple of doors down from the office, and the gentleman there, I think he lives there. His name's Chris. I don't know if I've ever been inside Benny's where he's not there. So I call him Benny Chris. So he hooked me up with, I thought he said beach bomb, but it's beach bum. It's a beach bum. So this is a beach bum. I'm not a beer guy. I'm going to try it anyway. And Mr. Nick, your drink is
Oh, just some great value water here.
great value
I'm a
water.
I'm a water
Oh,
guy all the way, man. Sometimes I'll do like Powerade that like especially in the mornings. I got the gunk in my throat. It goes down a lot easier. But dude, I weaned myself off of like everything a few years back. I used to do a lot of green teas when I was a trucker, and that was my juice of choice. It would
wait a
get
second. Wait a second.
get
Wait,
me
did you
through.
say you used to be a trucker?
Yeah,
Nick,
not too long ago.
I
It's been 6 years, yeah.
wow, dude, I didn't see that one coming. Well, anyway, this is my flask, my water flask here. I carry this everywhere I go. So I'm a
Yep.
water connoisseur as well. But I mean, it's Friday, it's happy hour. So, but I will say this you're doing much better than my last guest, Mr. Stuart Gage, who brought absolutely nothing. So we did a dry toast. I mean, he had put his
Okay.
hand to the camera thing. So at least you got great value water that's valued at 5 cents per gallon. So there you have it. All right,
Okay.
Nick. Cheers to another successful educational podcast, and hope everybody benefits from it. Here we go.
Oh yeah.
I think I'm a beach bum fan.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
more of
good.
a beer guy than whatever you want to call it, alcohol. I do like Red Bull and Jack sometimes.
Oh, that ain't water.
If somebody else pays
That's
for
not
it,
water.
I'll do that.
Uh,
Usually what I get if I end up in the bar. I think when I was in Vegas a few years back, I took a liking to it for a couple days. I think it was for my 21st. I was in Vegas and I was doing like Full Throttle or something in Jack. I don't know if Full Throttle's still around. The energy
I mean,
drinks.
how did that work out for you on your 21st birthday in Vegas? Do you
It
remember it?
was interesting. It wasn't my flavor, but it was an interesting experience.
I mean,
You say that.
experience, taste. What was the experience like?
Well, there was ladies walking around with their boobies out, and I was a young kid at the
Oh, that
time.
kind of experience. I thought you were talking about the drink experience. No, you're
Yeah,
talking
I
about
didn't
the
I didn't go
overall.
hardcore on the drinks. I would just get a little tipsy. Yeah.
Gotcha. Nick, I tell you what, man. The better I know you, and the more I'm around you, the more I realize you were just a very even kill,
Yep.
keep it neutral, not too much, not too little. Just just go with the flow kind of a guy.
I've had my wild nights for sure, but it was definitely when I was much younger.
Much younger. Yeah, that was. I mean, you're how old again, Nick? Because we're gonna
30,
get to that. 30.
30.
Oh man, you old fart. You're like a dinosaur. Dinosaur in Yukon. Yukon, not Colorado, not up in Canada. Yukon, Oklahoma. I didn't even know there was a Yukon, Oklahoma. Grab my
Mhm.
grab my map out. Beach bum, man. It's pretty smooth. It's got kind of a sweet taste, actually.
Interesting.
So, Nick, you are basically the jack of all trades, the master of some areas, though.
Yeah.
Business consultant, serial entrepreneur, master gamer, former master gamer,
Yeah.
social media guru. I mean, how many different titles can we put onto it? But
Could
if
find
you
a
could
lot.
just give us more of a background on yourself, including the family life, but segueing into where you're currently at and how you got to where you're at in your career today.
Yeah. So and if we go way back, I had the dreams of the six figures, doing, really good. I had a father that was a really great car salesman and was like one of Chevrolet's top salesmen for a long time, many years. And, he was always kind of struggling to make it. I mean, we never really went without anything, but I don't think he made six figures all the time. And mother never worked. I'm sure she did when she was younger than 30, but like basically from the time on afterwards, she retired from that to do drugs and alcohol. And I got a good taste of that type of life where you're like, okay, I know what I don't want to be, right? And I wasn't really drawn to anything growing up, but I had the seed planted of a family friend kind of. He dated my grandmother for a while and then they broke up and he stuck around. He was good to us. And he was a petroleum engineer and I kind of got set on that. I was a straight A student and I didn't really resonate with that and didn't really do much with it. I did start going to study engineering at OU and basically I was at a time in my life where I was more into cars and girls, a little bit of partying by proxy of the social circle, not so much that I was much of a partier, but uh for a good while there, for about 10 years I was really heavy in project cars, particularly boosting like old Hondas. And so I was the rice burner guy, not the ones that are, crazy gaudy, but for sure, like flames out the tailpipe type stuff, changing motors in the driveway, piss the neighbor off.
I don't really
So
know what this means, but I can totally see that with you.
yeah,
Just saying.
think
Just
about a
saying.
think about a Honda turned into just a straight up hot rod, sometimes gutted, but like basically motors in and out in 2 hours, just a typical Tuesday evening, get off work. That was what my garage, backyard, street, out on the street in front of the mailbox looked like. At one point I had 30 like 90s to 2000s models Hondas. So that was my probably most solid foray into entrepreneurship in a way is I had some trauma that formed from early teens where I didn't have enough money as a server to like fix my car. And so I was, I'm never gonna have my car. I'm never gonna be in this situation ever again. And I overcompensated with multiple cars. So anytime one would break down, I had another one to jump in. And basically I started a trend of buying cars and listing them for sale as soon as I got them, even if it was a car I really liked, so that I would never have to fork up the bill of maintenance or anything like that. And I would try to make money to drive them. And I ran that pretty successfully for a long time through my 20s.
So hold on a second. So you went against the grain of being an Okie. You're like, I am not going to have a Chevy Camaro on
Yeah,
cinder blocks in my front yard. No, we're going to do Hondas. Is that basically what you're telling me? We
100%.
had about three or four in the yard, and there's grass growing all over the place.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That shaped my early career outside of just being like a tire tech, delivery driver, got into the trucking side, doing more wholesale stuff. And man, when I got her pregnant with twins and she already had one, I was like, man, I'd probably make some more money. And I'd had some run-ins with network marketing early on, but I never really had the conviction. I really wasn't putting the level of effort into those things that would ever amount to much of anything. But I did have a cross line. He wasn't a direct up line, but I did have a guy that took me under his wing a little bit when I was in a high ticket affiliate marketing network marketing company. And he turned me on to the idea of like equity and big exits and stuff like that. And that's kind of what sold me on insurance or planted the seed. And then a few years later, right before the pandemic, we call him the Wonder Boy because he recruited like 400 people to Primerica local in like a 6 month period. Kind of attached my wagon to him. He's, what brought me over the edge to getting into insurance. And so I built up a little crew over there. I wouldn't call it an agency because it was more me just like running mass volume interviews with, people that were probably too young to be in market. But that's what led me to, we had a client that had a heart attack, wasn't able to get any money. And that sparked a journey of learning about living benefits and that there's better products out there. I had this thought in my mind of basically, if I'm going to do this for 20, 30, 40 years, I want to do the absolute best for somebody. That's just naturally, I'm going to beat my competition if I just work every day and have the best thing. And so, funny enough, pretty early on in my career, I met, the Shield guys, which you've had both of them on the show here. And I didn't have some of the horror stories of going through a bunch of the wrong things because I learned the right thing pretty quickly in my mind. I did interview like 14 of the top like seven-figure earners at pretty much every company, and they resonated most with them. So, which I just had an interview with a agent today where I was, kind of talking about like, oh, it always baffles me sometimes people will be someplace for like 10 years at one of these places that underpays them, under delivers on the value for the clients, and they never really think to do anything else. And I was like, man, you could have a widely different career just by having a different perspective about the options you can have and the way that you can serve people and the way you can run your business, get leads, all that type of stuff, right? I came in with a lot more outside perspective than probably most people get. So that was kind of long-winded, but um, I took a brief hiatus because of a back injury, where I stepped back into the trucking business for a little bit. Guy drove off a bridge, messed up his neck. Old business partner was like, "Can you come back and help me out? Just be a couple weeks." Turns out that guy wasn't coming back. I mean, he's still alive, but I hurt my back on the job pushing some freight, about 1,800 pounds of batteries, and I couldn't do what I was doing at the time, which was mainly Zoom calls running field training agents. And so I pivoted to a coach that I admired. He had a decent business and he had leads coming in from ads. And he was going to feed those to me as an appointment setter and a closer. And about 3 weeks in, his Facebook account got hacked. And he was like, "Well, I told you there'd be money, so I'm not going to have you empty handed. Why don't you be a coach, and I'll do my own organic marketing." And I helped him with organic as well as doing some setting and marketing on the side, but I was primarily coaching the staff and getting him out of fulfillment. So I worked my way through the rung of becoming client success director. And I learned about things that, you know, to save time. Basically, I just got really passionate about the things I learned, systems, skill set wise. And I was like, man, I got to take this back to the insurance industry. It's so far behind. And I'd already been bitten by the bug of IUL and banking, so I couldn't get out of my head anyway. So I kind of crafted a niche of my own, a little bit of a blue ocean. And it's been about 2.5 years since I landed the first client with that business model, which is primarily business consulting and a little bit of hybrid of done for you marketing stuff. And I had served some other um, folks for a while in that interim where they were like hypnotists, even a sex coach before, other marketing agencies and coaches. So I've consulted people on primarily high ticket service based businesses or coaching businesses, stuff like that, some health coaches and fitness coaches. So a lot of digital high ticket type products and services, not a whole lot outside of that. But
How are you helping them? Are you
well,
helping them with
basically
their
acquiring
branding, the
clients.
marketing, getting
Yeah,
like,
the number one, yeah, branding, marketing, positioning, messaging, tech a little bit, right? So like basically what does it require to bring clients in consistently and actually have cash flow and be a real business, right?
yeah. So, and that's really more of today's topic because I could talk to you for probably the next 48 hours straight, and we could talk about 20 different topics, if not more than that, ranging from launching a business to the shield to IULs to social media to marketing to branding and all these different things. But your bread and butter is, from what I've learned and recognized, is marketing and social media outreach and helping people get that awareness and that recognition, and maximize their exposure, if you will. Hopefully, I said that right.
Yeah.
Um, is that
The
an area of your business, of the different businesses that you're in, that you would say you enjoy the most, or would you say that's what you're best at, or a combination of both?
Oh, it's a both. I don't think that I would have gotten the level of efficacy with my skill if I didn't enjoy it. I had thoughts of like way back in the day, when I was, before I was a family man and I would date around quite a bit. I mean, basically I would just message girls like, "How's it going?" And it's not a lot different than hitting up a prospect. I mean, I had some DM skills before I had business DM skills, and I think that's a lot of what people don't have in some ways in their business is like, sure, you can send a script to somebody, but they're kind of notorious regardless of the industry of when you're being salesy or you're using a script of it just a low response rate unless it's like phenomenally or it's perfect is that person you want. And so like is not really how you message a girl, right? You gotta have some conversational flow. Like if you imagine, I don't know how many of you guys text people back and forth, but it could be even texting your wife, or if you're still in the age where you're dating, like there's a little bit of they want to know about you, you want to know about them, you're kind of flirty and curious, and you're like, making jokes and you're asking questions about them, you're playing 21 questions and business is a lot like that on social media. I mean, you gotta get the person to have a relationship with you for to have any sort of credence to be able to ask some of the questions you might need to know to serve them and them not be repelled by sharing that information, you know?
Absolutely. And let me piggyback off of that real quick. That's one of the biggest pet peeves that I have is upon, accepting or sending friend requests, and, within the hour, if not within the week, they just boom, they immediately hit you about their business. No building a relationship. Hey, thanks for the connection, and so forth and so on. And it's really a turnoff. If anything,
Yeah.
it repels me and pushes me further away from that person and disengaging versus attracting me and say, hey, I think this person seems pretty cool. And, you start trolling them and building that relationship before you get to, the services that you provide and see if there's, an opportunity there.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know what the underlying frame is there, but I can definitely attest to like I feel that way with people, especially being in the expertise where I teach people the opposite end of the spectrum and how to not be that person, right? When I get those messages, I just kind of feel like, man, like even if the thing was cool, like it's almost like you go into a trance and you just you can't even really tap into the value there, right? I don't know what that state is, but I mean, the person could have something that I'd be totally open to if I'd have just like kind of explored it on my own. And maybe it's that there's some underlying context or something that, the conversation's always going to have that cat out of the bag or something. And it's like, man, you really don't have to you don't have to have a whole lot of, opposite, discipline of instant gratification to do something better. I mean, even if you wait 48 hours before you pop a couple questions or you get to know the person first with like 5 to 10 questions, it's going to go better most of the time, right? Like, I think, I mean, if you have a business that's been able to stay in business, you're not offering something that most people don't want or need. And so, like, I think it's more of getting people to come to the conclusion and a sort of vibe that they want to 50-50 participate or more than that, more than anything else, right? Is like if something was applicable and relevant to someone and they could get it from you, and they knew who you were, they don't even necessarily have to like you to, for it to make sense for them to buy that product. I don't think it would, people would have as jarring of a reaction if people would just spend a little bit of time building that relationship. And that could mean a lot of different things, and we could maybe go into that. But for sure, you're definitely not limited on social media or by social media, only kind of by your own creativity with what you'll do with it, right?
I've got a question for you. So today, business ownership, business acumen, mastering the startup phase. I want to focus on that early on, understanding business operations. Basically, this is the life of being a business owner 101. Okay.
Hmm.
And one of the things that I learned about 20 years ago, it's quite a remarkable statistic, and I'm sure it's still true today. I haven't looked into it in a while, but 95% of small businesses fail within the first 3 years. Let me repeat that.
Yeah, that's a shocking number.
95% of small businesses. Notice it wasn't business specific, whether it's online, a service, brick and mortar, retail, service, doesn't matter. And 95% of small businesses fail within the first 3 years. Now, before I make my second point, now, I heard that and I was considering opening a business of my own. That would scare me. I mean, I'd be like, that's suicide. There's a
Yeah,
5%
close enough.
chance of me making it after 3 years. It's not worth the risk. Absolutely not. I'm going to stick with my 9 to 5. Now, on the flip side, franchises are a proven model.
Hmm.
It's a proven model. Says if you do this, this, and this, then you'll get that, that, and that. So franchises, and the reason why people invest so much capital, whether it be 10,000 to millions, like McDonald's or Burger King, is because there's a 95% chance that your business will still be in business after 5 years. It is a complete
Nice.
180. Now,
Interesting.
with all the different businesses that you have consulted, and it sounds like you've got a wide range from fitness to
Yeah.
who knows what would you say the the biggest challenge or obstacle of preventing that business from really scaling to the levels that these people need? So then they reach out to Nick and say, hey, I need your help. What would that be? What are some of the biggest mistakes that they're making? And where do you come
Well,
into play?
I think some of the simpler ones are just simply like it's the person. Like if you've ever heard the saying, you don't really have business problems, you have personal problems that bleed into the business. I mean, a lot of it is that like people I just got off with a guy who like he's not really and this is really relevant for our industry, right? He's not really passionate about final expense anymore, and he can't keep agents, and he's kind of looking at it like they don't want to talk about death all the time with people or whatever, right? Just kind of could drain the energy, and there's other factors there, but it's like sometimes it's the energetics, right? It's like, do you want to be consistent? Does it change after 5 years, 10 months, 4 months, whatever, right? Like there's one thing to do the sprint, but business is a marathon, right? Anyone can hustle for a little bit, but you got to have an extended runway. And that gets more people than that's probably the number one killer, right? But if we're just looking at structure of the business and stuff like that, I had this thought earlier of that saying that you'll hear people say like, oh, if I'd have just known then what I know now, right? I think that captures the essence of it is like there are things that you just don't know until you've gone through and taken a few on the chin that you would do differently. You know, his situation is kind of one of those. He said the phrase he used is I feel like I put the ladder against the wrong house. Like it's okay, he can pivot, but like the writing's kind of on the walls. They're like you recruit 1,100 people and you only got 15 real producers and like you can't keep people longer than 4 to 8 months, like something's wrong, right? It could be the business model, it could be a lot of things if you really take on look under the hood, but like people get into situations like that where they don't really know what they don't know about the business they're getting into until later down the road. And so I don't know,
Is
it's
there a
like
way
one
to
of those
prevent
things
that?
of
Is there a way to prevent that?
I'm basically you got to get a mentor. I've heard the advice of like try a bunch of different things and figure out what you like. I think those are good things. They may not be the most practical, like having a mentor can be expensive, in some things. You can't try everything because there's a limited amount of time and it costs money to try things, and you're not really trying anything if you're not sticking it out long enough to see certain things come to fruition inside of it and apply yourself. And so it's just hard all around the board. I mean, you can't, there's no way to make the perfect decision before you make it. It's one of those things. Business is one of those things, no matter what industry or what you're doing, you can't swim on the concrete. You don't have to necessarily jump in the deep end, but like you can take the stairs, but you got to get in the pool to figure out all the things that you can play with. And, um, a lot of people stay stuck in that working in the business and not on the business. And I think the leverage comes from being able to work on the business and learn about the like decision making is a major skill. You know what I mean? A decision making for business, and you kind of got to apply it to a vehicle to become more adept at it. So it's I think when we go back to what you were asking a little while ago with me, man, I think it helps to be passionate. I don't think you have to be passionate about something for it to be a good thing in your life or whatever for you to be successful at it, but it definitely helps. You'll work longer hours or whatever if you really enjoy what you're doing than if it's just a means to an end or trying to make money or whatever, right? So there's a lot of, and we can unpack so many things in there, but I think those are
We
some of the
can. Yeah,
underlying
I'm taking
principles.
notes over here, and I'm like, there's five different directions I can take this conversation right
Yeah.
now.
I think it really comes down to as boring as it sounds and obvious is like it's kind of like business principles and like how does life really meld with the business, right?
Well, with me, I think one of the main reasons why small businesses fail and business owners is because they dramatically underestimate the amount of work, effort, time that they have to put into that business. And I often use the example of if you were to invest, let's say, and forget about a franchise for a moment. Let's just, you make the best hamburger sliders, Nick. Oh my God. Everybody who's has your sliders, they rave about it. You should open up your own hamburger slider joint one day. So after enough people get in your ear, you're like, maybe I should open up my own hamburger slider joint. So you start the process, you find the land, you get the investment, you get the loan, you build the building, so to speak, you hire the staff, you get the product, you get the insurance. I mean, but by the time you open those doors, you're already a couple $100,000 in the hole, right? But
Yeah.
whenever that the doors open, How much time are you going to put in that business? 40 hours, 9 to 5? Are you going to punch a clock at 9 o'clock in the morning and stay till 5 o'clock and punch a clock and then go home and let everybody else run it? Or are you going to basically live there with a cot in the back and be there 7 days out of the week? Well, when you put in those examples, people are like, yeah, yeah, if I've got several $100,000 on the line, my whole life is in that thing, failure is not an option. But the majority of businesses don't require that much capital. Some do, most don't. But it still requires the same, if not more, amount of effort that you have to put into that. The second thing with me is purpose. What is your purpose? Is this really something that you're passionate purpose to where you have a reason to get out of bed? You have a reason you look forward to going to work every day because of the belief factor that you have. It's not a job, and yeah, we're not working for charity. We're here to make money. But at the end of the day, we're serving a bigger purpose and the money's going to follow. So it really has to be purpose driven. And the third thing, I really like what you said, centers of influences and positioning yourself around very extremely successful people who are going to buy in, support you in your journey, because we know that 98% of the world, including your family members, are going to say, it ain't going to work. You're going to fail. You're wasting your time. You need to get a job. So those are the three reasons for me that, why I think most businesses fail, really starting with work ethic. Everybody wants to be their own boss. They want to, write their own schedule. They want to be the captain of their own ship. And I always say, be careful what you wish for, because most people are used to having somebody micromanage them and tell them what to do. And then once they have that freedom and flexibility, it's too much of a good thing. And they have too much freedom and not enough work and that focus and that discipline and that accountability. And I know I'm going off, over on this direction. Another thing I want to mention, you're talking about cost. I don't know, cost for a coach or a cost for a mentor. It's not a cost.
Yeah.
It's an investment. And that's the
It,
problem that most people have is, I don't know if a $200 for this course. Well, I don't know. I don't know. That $200 could turn around and generate you $40,000 in return from the knowledge that you're going to get. But the
yeah.
majority of people try to have this DIY mindset, and they try to figure it out, and they jump over dollars to get the dimes. And then
Yeah.
before they know it, they can't figure out what's going on because they're too afraid to invest into somebody like you that's going to coach them and help them scale their business. And they're worried about the thousand, not realizing that you're going to generate $100,000 in return.
100%. Yeah, I mean it's if you could see the pathway, you would make different decisions and it could save you from having to tear down your business like this other guy and do something different down the road when it's a lot more complicated, or like years of heartache working longer hours than you want, doing things you don't want to do. Maybe you're making the amount of money, but that's your reality. Maybe you lose your health. I think this guy had multiple heart surgeries. So like, you know, we all have everything has its pros and cons. It's not all rainbows. Oh, you get a coach and it's life is easy now. You need to make less mistakes. You still got to do the same amount of work for the most part. It's just you might have a more clear direction and you might not have as many blind spots. But even if you extrapolate that out on a more expensive scale, like, it's not black or white. There's a sliding scale there of like, okay, some people are comfortable spending uh a few $100, but they can't get themselves to um spend a few $1,000 or a few $10,000, right? Or go hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt like some people do with real estate stuff, right? It's there's this sliding scale with decision making and investing and stuff like that. And if you go back to what they always say, like the best investors and the best business people, they just don't make decisions emotionally, but like 99% of people really can't do that when it comes down to the wire and they actually have some major opportunity in front of them. I mean, I look at it like with the coaching thing, even. I mean, you've been at this level before, so you could probably see this mindset in people that you've coached, which is like, man, we're not talking about $200 a month for a coach. Like, I think a good mentor that thinks they can make you, they're really confident they can make you 30, 40, 50 grand a month. They're probably not going to work for $200 a month. Like that's
That's
not really a
exactly correct.
mentor.
That's
These
100%
programs
correct.
that people are
Yep,
in, it's not really, there's no real skin in the game, you
that's
know?
right. Hmm.
And so the good people cost a little bit more and you kind of get what you pay for. It's
Cheap
like
things out
you're gonna
expensive.
make you make 10 grand a month in 90 days. It's $200 course. It's like, well, how does that work out? I mean, maybe there are people that have been able to do that inside the course, but what did they know going into it that the other people didn't? What were some of the outlying factors in their character and their behavior that the other people weren't willing to do that has nothing to do with the course, right?
Yep.
And so I think people really got to learn again, decision making is a skill. And if you can put yourself in a spot where you have to make tough decisions, you'll develop it a lot more quickly. And that
Absolutely.
can be
Some of the
extremely
biggest
helpful.
deals and the most important decisions are made within seconds, not days or weeks or months or years. They're right there on the spot. So we've spoke a lot about really what not to do, and we spoke a lot about why businesses fail. Let's talk about the other side and understanding business operations and mastering that startup phase. And I think mastering the startup phase is a good way to start off in that direction. So, tell us a little bit about mastering that startup phase, Mr. Early.
Well, I think if we simplify things, I mean, you got to do the things that make you money. I mean, so many times, I can tell you in my line of work, I spend a lot of time on social media. I see that little thing pop up at the end of the week that warns me about screen time. And I'm like, man, maybe I was appointment setting. I mean, I'm as just as guilty as anybody at watching dumb
Yeah,
stuff when I should
I'm
be
just
working.
like, this is
But
not good,
but
man.
yeah, I mean, basically, like for example, when you're running, most of the businesses I've worked in, and consulted on, you got to take appointments, like in insurance, for example, like they can't underwrite it themselves. They can't go to the website and get it. I mean, sure, there's ethos, but like you're looking at products that are objectively way lower quality. The good stuff, you got to go through some hoops to get there, right?
Right.
When you're talking about, high ticket businesses where somebody has to make a decision that's 5, 10, 20, 30 grand, like sometimes that's going to be multiple calls. That's going to be, they got to wire themselves money from another account. They got to acquire some funding or something, right? So you're looking at the only activities that can really make somebody money is getting more qualified sales calls or running the sales calls. And yet there are people that just won't do that, right? They'll do anything but that. And it's like, if you get to the point where there's a lot of tasks, the business is going well, you're at the middle of that startup phase, right? And you got to start to scale. You got to look at how can I spend more time doing those things that can make me money? Because I mean, you could just spend your time doing things that'll technically never make you money. And a lot of people do that. And so it's like, okay, if I'm generating 10 grand a month, taking 6 calls a week, or maybe it's 8 or 10, it could be different for different people, right? How do I run 12? What breaks when I try to run 12 and I don't do these other things that I was doing during those hours that I wasn't on sales calls? Like, how can I do both, right? Maybe you got to burn the midnight oil a little bit, right? Um, like I know a lot of people that they'll tell me, dude, I'd do anything to make 10K a month, 15K a month, whatever. And I'm like, that's not true because you'd be doing anything and everything right now if that were true. The behavior doesn't really line up. Like if you haven't been through my free courses and training that show you how to get ahead, if you haven't stayed up at 3 in the morning studying, something boring like taking the insurance test or even continued education, making the extra phone calls, right? Like you haven't followed up with that person you said you're going to follow up with 3 weeks ago. Like that's not true. You can't say that you're willing to do anything and everything. You're not doing the things that you could be doing that you know how to do and you know you should be doing. And a lot of people get stuck in there, but it's basically revenue generating activity. You gotta really understand what that means for your business and what's going to break along the way if you start doing less of that. And even if you delegate it to someone, it's like, okay, I got to do revenue generating activity. And I don't like it when my appointment setter says dumb stuff to people. At one point, about a year and a half ago, I had an appointment setter that I could outperform him what he does in 6 hours in 1 hour. I'm like, man, I don't like something's going on here. Like, but I can't be doing appointment setting if I need to be on calls. So like there's just at some point you get to a point where there's a give and take and it's trading the good for great, right? So and I don't know who's watching this and what spot you're in. If you ever ran a business, you have aspirations to run a business, but you want to track your stuff. One thing that I think is super underrated is like track how many hours you actually worked last week, and then divide the amount of money you made, right? How much did you technically make per hour, right? What of those things led to you making more per hour versus the others? Because like if the math don't math, you're gonna have some problems. If nothing else, if you're generating the amount of money you want to make and the profit is there to keep the business going, a lot of people that aren't tracking well enough or really being intentional about how to do more and do better, you could be doing tasks that you don't want to be doing. Too many of them. You could be working too many hours, right? Even if things are kind of going well. And it's pretty easy to get in that trap. Really advanced person can fall in that trap because there's always a new level and new decisions to make, right? I mean, if you're merging companies or you're allocating funds to a long-term project, all of that, has to be taken into consideration. So that process of evaluating the opportunity on your calendar never really ends. It just, if anything, it gets more confusing along the way. What's objectively valuable for your time and what's the biggest bang for your buck versus other things. So
Well, yeah,
that
inventory.
was a mouthful, but hopefully that paints a picture, of what I think. Again, that's kind of what stops most people, but it is like how to do more revenue generating activity.
The inventory of time is absolutely huge. The majority, and again, distractions and doing non um, profitable or revenue generating activities. They're doing busy work, but nothing that's actually generating revenue for them. In addition to just distractions and time wasters, time sucks. I took a Cardone course. Actually, I went through Cardone University for about 2 years, and we had Mr. David Bradley. I'll give him a plug. David Bradley, that dude is he's amazing, man, and what a privilege it was working with him for the year and a half that I did. But yeah, he was the one who turned me on to the 72-hour time inventory challenge. For 72 hours, each and every hour, document exactly what you did during that hour. Do that for 72 hours. And then he asked this question, what are some of the things that you are willing to do for free to where you generate no revenue? And it sounds like, well, nothing. I don't want to do anything. I want to make money. But when you really track and analyze your time, you realize that like the overwhelming majority of your day, you're doing crap for free, whether it be playing a
Yeah.
game or, you know, Loto did just whatever, instead of focusing and having a schedule and sticking to that schedule. And that's it. It starts with a plan. It
Yeah.
starts with a schedule. It really starts with your goals. What are
Yeah.
you trying to achieve? And most people don't even write their goals down. I think that's another part where people neglect, and it's such an underrated topic, is goal setting. People hear it and they think they understand the importance, but they really don't. They really don't. Most people's goals in their head. And when you write it down, a goal is a dream with a deadline. That's what it is. But if it's your head, then it really doesn't exist. You have nothing to really measure and in a target that you don't know what you're aiming for, right?
Yeah.
So the goal setting, the time wasters, inventorying your time, those are huge in terms of just time sucks to get away from you, and you can't figure out why you're not getting ahead. Well, you're not getting ahead because you're not doing above and beyond what it takes to get you to that next level. You're plateaued is where you're at. Um, what about business acumen? Understanding business operations and business acumen. Tell me a little bit about that. Thank you, Brian. Brian said my
Well,
volume was low.
I heard something that I thought was really simple yet really profound fairly recently from a big business guru, and it's basically like a process or a system, if you will, because that's all systems and process can be an interchangeable word. It's just the steps that it takes to change something, right? And so in every department of your business, you have things that are required to make the change as necessary, right? It's like when I used to get tire shipments in, right? Like somebody has to climb up there and pull the tires down before people can sort them. Sometimes the stickers on them are all rolled up or messed up or they're missing. How are you going to scan this thing into the inventory, right? How are you going to line the ones up that need to go where they need to go? Then we got to put them on a pallet and take them to the back of the warehouse. Those are all different steps in the process to how do I get new inventory in. It's not like the truck just backs up and magic wand and you got 1,200 tires all put where they need to go, and the 60 of them that have to go to the customer tomorrow or where they need to go. But every department is like that. Every task has a micro thing, which really ties in with goals of how can you be more efficient at each of these things. Well, first you got to take an inventory of those things. And so a lot of operations is just simplifying what needs to happen, what's unnecessary, being willing to test and change some things. But ultimately, there's a role, even if you're wearing every hat in your business. What happens if you just don't do marketing? We're just going to have less leads, right? What happens if you have less leads? Well, you're going to be probably talking to the same leads all the time. What happens when you're doing that? You might be able to close some deals, but like, if you don't have enough, if the spigot's not pouring new stuff in, you're going to feel some impact from that, right? What if you're doing all the work yourself and you should be doing more sales? You should be managing inventory. What if you know, when I was a truck driver and I would go to deliver at some places in the middle of the night, I had a key to the other company's property, right? It's like, what if I wasn't allowed to have the key, right? Or I wasn't entrusted with a credit card to gas up the vehicles. It's like there are key decision making points. I mean, you could validate a reason. Hey, this guy's kind of shady. I feel like he would buy snacks or something on his downtime or whatever. Like there's you could justify
Give me
not giving a
snacks.
driver, that type of power. You know what I mean? Like, and so those all little decisions add up to big decisions. And like, you may not think of that directly as operations, but like if you simplify things, there are necessities that need to be in place in order to achieve an outcome. And you want to take an inventory of what each of those things are. And as with anything, I think, start simple as possible. Sometimes things break just because you add unnecessary complexity. Um, yeah, I'll go with that to save time.
You say the end. All right, well, we're starting to wrap it up here. So, Nick, you do a lot of business consulting. What are some of the areas of expertise that most people reach out that they need your consulting, your help with? And with that said, how would somebody be able to get in touch with you?
Yeah. Well, primarily work with people on marketing, branding, and positioning. That is kind of the skill and the deep domain expertise that I apply that essentially helps people generate leads at the quality that they want. So, like, I work with a lot of service-based businesses, right? Particularly like high ticket, $1,000 plus in profit from each client. And a lot of that you have to talk to your customer, right? In sales. It's not very like click here on a website and it's delivered, shows up in the mail. And so what I find that people need is they need quality of leads. They need the right quality of the right volume. And if they're scaling, they're going to start to see patterns of they need their people, each of their sales reps or their managers to have quality and volume. And that just repeats itself on end in a lot of organizations. And so that's a problem that you have to have a blueprint to solve at scale. There are some things in businesses that break when they need 100 people doing that task that are fairly easy to achieve when you only need 3 people running 3 or 5 calls a day or something like that. But when you need thousands of leads, starts to be more complexity in your vendors or in your solutions and stuff like that. So I'll essentially audit departments like that to find the weak points. Where does a hire need to be made? Where does performance need to be tweaked? What does that actually look like? What kind of targets and goals can we set for somebody? What tools would be necessary to improve on these things? What are people open to and why? Because there's different ways to skin cats. So it can get pretty complex in that sense, but I'd say I'm a marketing consultant for the most part, right? So if your marketing feels like it's broken, it's not doing what you want it to do, there's not enough lead quality, there's not enough lead volume, it's not the right type of people. I hope a lot with sales, right? I'd say I'm more on the marketing side than sales, but marketing and sales are very much one and the same thing. They're marketing is just sales at scale. It's just sales one to many, right?
Yeah.
So the best marketing is very transparent. It's like, here's what I have, here's what it does, here's how it works, here's what it's not good for, right? Here's who wouldn't be a fit for it, right? And there might be some nuances in there. So the more transparent you can be, the easier it's going to be to get the exact person you want to understand what you're trying to communicate. It's basically just communication using audio, video, and words, and then the different systems you use to distribute that to make sure it gets in front of enough of the right people, right? So there's kind of an art and science to it. But I specialize in helping service-based businesses, primarily high ticket with that. I could help somebody that has a course or a membership platform. Obviously, my main niche is insurance, right? So if you're an insurance person looking to get more insurance clients, right? If you're looking to get more insurance prospects, if you want to get more views on your social media, if you want to fix your targeting, if you want your sales team to be more efficient, if you want to hire more salespeople, there's quite a bit of overlap in what I can go into. And the best place to reach me is Facebook. So I have my main Facebook profile is facebook.com/the tyrant with two E's. So it's TheeTyrant. And then if you're an insurance person, you can actually click on my cover photo and I've got a Facebook URL. It's facebook.com/group/team building secrets. And it's all about, faster, easier, better, more efficient ways to build $1 million team quickly using the power of social media. So I delve a lot into social media, but not for the purpose of just learning how social media works. You probably find that on social media or on YouTube. It's more of how do we use social media as a tool to drive revenue, right? If I could sum up what I do, sometimes I'll refer to myself as a creative director or a marketing director because it's not just social media. I mean, there's certain words that you need to know for your market, for your product and stuff like that, crafting and packaging your services and your communication in order to get higher response rates from texts and emails and phone calls, right? A lot of marketing is just what you're saying to people over the phone, right? A lot of what I just shared is marketing, right? So there's for what I do. So there's a lot of systems that I can play with. I can help people with CRMs and things like that, but um, the best place to find me would be on my social media. You're going to get a fast response there. Um, yeah, I wouldn't say anyone should try to find me anywhere else. And
Okay. How
yeah,
about
there's
reaching out to you by phone?
no, I won't answer. You'll get a full voicemail
Yeah,
box, and
you sure can't leave a voicemail message with Mr. Early. No, it's that's
you gotta
true.
you gotta jump through my hoops. If you like what I had to say, if you think I can help you, I do free consultations. I don't charge just to figure out what you got going on and what I could possibly help you with. I may not be able to help you, and I'll tell you that. But I do make people jump through my hoops. I don't like people just finding their way to my calendar automated. I like to make
You got
sure
to earn it.
I get the
You got to.
person.
How bad do you want it? Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I've helped people make 100K profit in a month. I've helped
Wait,
people
wait. Repeat that, sir, for the people in the back that didn't hear what you just said.
I've helped people make 100K profit in a month.
All right, let's
Specific.
stop there. Let's stop there. And you did say that you do offer free initial consultations, correct?
That's right. That's right. Can't say I can
So
do that, especially if you're in an industry I may not have a lot of experience with, but that is what I specialize in is getting people that operate remotely to communicate and get more opportunities with their target ideal clients or team members or talent, right? And communicate their value on the phone or on a Zoom call to actually get them to spend money with them to the tunes of 5 figures a month.
amazing. So we got 5 minutes left here. So two more questions. One is if a person was to hire you for your services, what are some of the things that they could expect early on in working with you? What kind of a process would you take them through?
Well, I'm very hands-on. So I don't know if everyone objectively values it, but I value one-on-one mentorship and support and accountability. I think, Tony Robbins even says like accountability is the number one needle mover for most people with things in their life related to goals and growing. And it can be as little as 10 minutes, but you want it to be consistent and um, repetitious, right? And so what I found working with a lot of sales teams is if you give somebody weekly accountability when you weren't doing that before, things will speed up. If you give them daily accountability, they'll either shape up or shape out really quick, right? We call it the heat in the kitchen. So I bring that to the table and customize solutions, right? The goal is to build a solution, not to push what I have. I'm pretty flexible in what I can do and the way that I think and how I work with people. But if you don't want to have deep conversations ongoing to optimize things and um, grow, probably I'm not the best fit for somebody.
Okay. Anything else? Or is that it?
Yeah, so I operate as a consultant, so it's mainly a coaching relationship. I will do some done for you or some hybrid work where I'll, help create some marketing assets or set up some tech or whatever if it's necessary. But I would say it's not the best use of my time. It'd be better for us to, okay, here's a role that's ongoing you're gonna need. This is gonna be more than a one-time overnight project. I'll help you hire somebody for that and find the talent and vet them and create the SOPs they would actually need to succeed in that role. So
Wow, that's quite amazing that you
those
would
are
even
those
go
are some
above and beyond.
deliverables people can
Mhm.
expect aside from just spending time with me on ongoing consultations.
Gotcha.
That would be what we would be aiming to develop for a department is to document what is working in their operations. Primarily sales and marketing is what people come to me for, but operations is a good it's the background that's running between every department. So I get a lot into that.
So the final question that I have for you is the same final question that I ask everyone, which is if you could go on top of planet Earth with the largest megaphone in the world and shout this announcement that you feel in your heart that everybody needs to know, what would that message be in a matter of a couple of sentences?
And it's hard. Part of me wants to say to believe in yourself and that you're infinitely powerful. You can do anything you set your mind to. And I think there's a lot of merit to that. But I feel like as a more less generic, like anybody could probably give that message. I believe in the power of living benefits. I personally had a back injury that changed my career path. Luckily, I was able to turn that into something really amazing, right? And get into a blue ocean business, that's taken off and done well. But I think for a lot of people, something that was able to happen to them, something similar to what happened to me happens to them for whatever reason, myriad of things takes them out. You want to protect your income, right? And in general, learn about finances, right? This podcast is a great resource, but you want to learn financial literacy because that covers a lot of things. But I mean, you want to study the science and the art of everything related to money because I mean, if you're going to work 8 to 10 hours a day for it, most people for many decades, it's pretty dang important. You probably want to get a hold of, they say knowledge is power. You want to get a hold of as much leverage as you can to do better with that stuff. And at some point, time and energy is those are far more valuable than money. You can get to a point where money's not as much of a struggle and one way to do that is to get educated and then learn how to apply the education. If you don't doesn't do anything if you don't apply it. So that was long-winded. What I would say, learn about money, but you got to believe in yourself and take action. If I could do two there.
I'd rather have long winded where people speak from the heart versus just regurgitate a whole bunch of crap that just sounds good. And I know that was spoken from the heart, especially on the living benefits, because you've lived it, pun intended. You've been through that. And so you understand it in addition to having several clients who's also going through that same thing. And you understand the just the absolute power of having living benefits where, we say it all the time. People are going to, they go out there and they insure depreciating assets every day, their cars, their TVs, their cell phones. Yeah, even if they buy a trip on Priceline, they're going to insure that trip. But they do not protect their most valuable financial asset, which is you. It's your ability to earn income. And you're
Mhm.
5 times more likely to get seriously sick or injured before you retire than die. So
Right.
you
I mean,
can't
if you've
afford not
ever
to have it.
insured if you ever bought an electronic and the little button pops up, you like want to get the insurance too, and it's a few.
Uh huh. Yeah.
If you're the type of person that has to think about insuring yourself or your family for the things that are very possible and likely to happen in your life, especially the death part, because that's going to happen to everyone.
Yeah.
Like, just rethink what was the decision-making process you used when you clicked that button for the electronic. Like, you can get a lot more value out of other things that are, maybe you could call them boring and archaic, but like, they're very important. All the people that get ahead, they think differently in some of the decisions that other people wane with. They take long to make decisions.
I look at the human body and I use my analogy is that of a machine. You put so many miles on a car, on a vehicle, on a human body, eventually things are going to start falling apart, right?
Mhm.
And when that happens, are you prepared for it? So let me say this, man, Nick, dude. I mean, I was looking forward to this all week long. Like I said, you and I, we could talk for hours and hours because you're just a vortex of just solid information in so many different areas. And the more that I time that I spend with you, and the more that I listen to you and I learn from you, the more I realize how much just vast knowledge, great information that you possess, and you possess all that at such a young age because of your centers of influences and the people that you partner with. You learn from them just like I learned from you. Nick, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Turn me on.
Have an awesome weekend, guys, and we'll see you next Friday at 4. Till then, take care and salute.